This is my copyright lesson using the Assure model. So when I was designing this lesson, I was thinking of a particular group that I have this year that is 7th graders. They're 12 and 13 years old. There are more girls in that class than boys. They're mostly Hispanic Latino. The group as a whole has very little knowledge of copyright. They are digital natives. They all have their own cell phone. I have several kids who are at risk in that class. I have several that are emergent bilinguals, and I have several children who have ADHD. Their preferred learning styles are bodily kinesthetic and interpersonal. When thinking about what state standards and objectives, I looked at the TEKS, TEK 5 for digital citizenship, particularly Part A, which is understand and practice copyright principles, including current laws, fair use guidelines, Creative Commons, open source, and public domain. I also looked at the ISTE standards, 1.2 for C for learners, which is students demonstrate an understanding of and respect for the rights and obligations of using and sharing intellectual property. And finally, I looked at the AASL standards framework for learners B6, 2, and 1 and 2, which is ethically using and reproducing others' works and acknowledging authorship and demonstrating respect for the intellectual property of others. So with those standards in mind, my objective is for students to create a video explaining copyright law and the first steps they can take to check the copyright on a work. And then the strategy that I plan on using would be that students will use Flipgrid to record themselves talking about copyright terms and laws and the first steps to check copyright on an image, text, or website. And when utilize the resources, I have previewed the resource. We've used it in class several times, plus I've used it in my class with that particular class period several times this year as well. To prepare the resource, it is compatible with my district's Google login. To prepare the environment, I would make sure that they all have good backgrounds to have behind them or places away from each other. I have a pretty lengthy hall by the library that they would be able to present a little bit quieter. To prepare the learners, I would make sure they remember how to log into Flipgrid. And then to provide them the learning experience, I would give them the opportunity to kind of turn and talk and think about what they were going to say before they do their final recording. When I just mentioned this, they would turn and talk to their table group about the copyright terms. I would have them write a draft to practice the recording. And finally, I would have the students record on their Flipgrid. To meet the diverse needs of the classroom for my students who English is their second language, I would allow them to work with a partner if needed. For students who need a little bit more movement, giving them breaks in between or being able to talk first and be able to move around before they record, and of course chunking it for my students who have ADHD, giving them little parts at a time. Talk with your group, okay, take a break, now write a draft, now take a break, now record it, to give them those chunks and differentiation. And then finally, this is the rubric I created using Ruby Star to help them evaluate. I would look at the oral presentation, is it smooth? Does it hold their attention? Is it interesting? Do they talk too fast, too slow? Are they getting distracted by people around them? I would look at their content, that they're giving examples and details, that they really understood copyright rules. I would look at their attractiveness, because there are some stickers you can play around with in Flipgrid and some different fonts you can add, and you can change the background. I would look and see if that is helping their presentation rather than hindering. And then finally, the requirement that they would be able to discuss 3 to 5 copyright terms and the first steps to checking copyright. So looking, were they able to do that? Did they define the words correctly? Are they able to kind of understand at least who to go to help them look and locate copyright? And then of course, here are my references for the standards and the Ruby Star, and then the textbook. And then, of course, the TEA's standards and the TEKS. Thank you.